Thank you all so much. It's always so great to be back with BamaCarry, my fellow gun nuts, right? As y'all remember. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. Gun nuts are awesome. And like I said, as long as they're nuts from the same tree, I'm good to go. So I really appreciate y'all. This is actually my third convention. So that's really awesome that you guys invited me back. I truly do feel honored to be not just with gun nuts, but with people that I've gotten to know, people that I admire, people that I would call friends, people I would call groupies. Oh, there he is, number one groupie right there. Okay, it's kind of an inside joke, but it keeps on going.
What gender are you?
Exactly. But thank you so much again for the honor of being with you guys today and having the chance to hopefully keep you guys alive and awake before lunch. I always get that spot. It makes me very nervous because I got a lot of growling tummies and hungry folks staring at me, and it makes me feel like, okay, I better do a good job or I'm going to hear about this all during lunchtime when I just want to eat my sandwich or whatever it is and be done with it. But again, thank y'all for this opportunity today. Maybe I'll be able to challenge you guys just a little bit and hopefully kind of add to the awesome content that we heard earlier from Michael and from Dan. And I really appreciate them and what they do and their vision and passion, because I think, we all have different abilities and talents and skills, and we all have different ways of reaching people. And I think all together, all those different methods and tactics are going to be beneficial across the board, because we don't all do this the same way. I always like to say, I'm just the mom with a gun. And yes, I do have two. See, moms, see, ladies, you can dress, just like you normally would, and you can have firearms on you if you don't choose to open carry. And most of the time I conceal carry just because that's the best way for me in my lifestyle. I also work for the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, but we love our open carriers just the same, so don't feel like that's going to leave you guys out of the whole process there. But I wanted to start out today with kind of a weird story, if you will, or something to consider. I don't know if any of you guys have watched YouTube lately, and actually over the last couple of years. There's this gentleman out there, I think his name is J.P. Sears, very strange guy. He's got like this really long red hair, and he wears like a strange kind of like hippie looking bandana. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? He does a lot of like parody videos, a lot of tongue-in-cheek things about, you name it. I mean, he has done something about guns and gun owners, which wasn't really the most comfortable thing to watch. But he's done some other funny things about, millennials, about relationships. And one that kind of stands out is he did this kind of parody about vegetarians. Okay, I'm not a vegetarian, mostly because I'm a super picky eater. Maybe I'm a desertitarian. Maybe that would be the way to kind of, categorize myself. I could live on desserts. But he was trying to show how kind of awkward or weird it can be sometimes when you're speaking with, conversing with, living with, eating with someone who is a vegetarian. And nothing against vegetarians, but it's kind of a really funny parody where he is acting like what a vegetarian would be, only he's a meat eater. So he goes through this video, and I see some people laughing and nodding, you've seen it. He's like, I'm a meat eater, and this has to be meat, or I can't be at this restaurant. And he just goes on and on and on about the specifications of what it's like to be a meat eater in a world of vegetarians, right? Okay, so the reason why I bring that up is because it kind of got me thinking about the way anti-gun folks talk about firearms all the time, right? They have an agenda, and they have like a very specific kind of way to get at people. And I thought, what if the tables were turned? What if us gun-loving folk picked a topic and talked about that the way they talk about firearms? And this is not even a God-given right, but I looked at it as if, and I don't want to offend anybody, but What if we dealt with it the way people deal with firearms and we talked about swimming pools? Think about that. Think about the conversation if you were an anti-swimming pool person. Okay, so I kind of created this little parody that kind of deals with how we would treat others, or they would treat us, if we had the god-awful, horrible, very dangerous swimming pool. Okay, so y'all bear with me and just listen how this conversation might go. Wow, you own a swimming pool? Okay, you know, I never knew. I never knew that you, of all my friends, would be the kind of person to own a swimming pool. Yes, that kind of person. I'm shocked. It's so irresponsible. A swimming pool? Why would you need a swimming pool? It's dangerous. Don't you even know how dangerous pools are? Do you realize how many people die every year by pool? Think of the children who die. Think of your children. How are you going to keep your children safe? I mean, you're willing to sacrifice their safety just so you can take a dip now and then? Is that worth it? To know that someone could die any moment in your pool? I can't imagine having a swimming pool at my home. Just knowing that this death liquid was lurking outside the back door 24/7 would be enough to make me a nervous wreck. I mean, really, have you even watched the news lately? Have you seen how many pool deaths there have been? How much pool violence there is? I bet you know tons of people who have family members or loved ones who have died by pool. Or maybe you personally know someone who died this way. Think about it. How do you think they would feel if they knew you had a swimming pool? You realize that you're jeopardizing yourself and your family. And I'm not sure I can ever come to your house again. In fact, I'm not really sure we can be friends. I don't want to be around someone who owns a pool. Pools cause deaths. Thousands of deaths every year. The CDC reports that every day, 10 people die by pool. And out of those, 2 children under the age of 14 are dying by pool every day. If we could save just one person, wouldn't it be worth it to get rid of the pools? This is common sense pool regulations. Common sense. Don't you care? I mean, does it not bother you that children are dying every day? It's so selfish. There are more than 10 million pools in America right now, and I'm not even talking about hot tubs. And do you know how easy it is to get a pool? You can buy a pool just about anywhere. It's easier to get a pool than it is to buy a book. That's right. You can even buy one off of Craigslist without a background check. And of all these pool owners out there, how many of them do you think have taken pool safety classes? Seriously, this is ridiculous. I mean, 25% of pool owners 25% use pool covers. That's it. The rest of the 75%, they don't even have pool safeties. None. Zero. It's terrible. I feel sorry for you. I wish you'd open your eyes to the truth. I wish you would see how horrible swimming pools are and how valuable life is. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Common sense pool control. Now, I realize that there is no death, accident, or otherwise that should be looked at lightly. But I give you this example because this happens all the time. And I know pools and guns aren't the same thing. I realize that. I think I'm speaking to people who are smart enough to figure that out. But if we turn the tables, if we had conversations with folks that are so anti-gun, the way that they have conversations with us, that's about how ludicrous it would sound. Really. And it's not fair, and it's frustrating, and I know that all of us are kind of in the same kind of line of thinking, unfortunately, there's all those kinds of facts and figures floating out there that people want to use against you. I mean, listen to this fact. Oh, this is a good one. Fact. Did you know that water can be chemically synthesized by burning rocket fuel? Fact. Overconsumption of water can cause excessive sweating, urination, and even death. Yeah, it gets worse, folks. Fact. 100% of all serial killers, rapists, drug dealers, and terrorists have admitted to drinking water. Look it up. Look it up. Fact. Water is one of the primary ingredients in herbicides and pesticides. Fact. Water is the leading cause of drowning. Okay? And fact. Y'all listen to me now. Fact. 100% of all people exposed to water will die. You see what I'm saying here? Are all those facts? Yeah. Are they ridiculous? Yes. So be careful of the facts that the anti-gun crowd want to use against us. They might very well be facts, but they make zero sense. Or it's such an overgeneralization or a logical fallacy that it's just preposterous. And today, for the remainder of my speaking, I want to talk about some of these weird myths, misunderstandings, not necessarily from the anti-gun side. I think the guys kind of tackled a lot of those, and you can read a lot in Dan's awesome books. I want to talk about some of the things that we're perpetuating. Dun, dun, dun. Uh-oh, now you feel a little bit like you're in church, and you're in the hot seat, and you're being challenged by the pastor. Well, okay, like I said when I started, I hope maybe today you do feel at least a little bit challenged or inspired. Maybe that's a better word. I don't want to challenge you. I want to inspire. I want you to take some of this and either maybe rethink something that you're doing or saying, or apply something to your life, or try something maybe you haven't. That's the whole point of this, because I don't want us to feel on the spotlight all the time, or in the spotlight all the time, being thrown all these quote-unquote facts that are just so absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so let's look at some of these misnomers, these myths, or these other things that are floating around out there. How about this one? Gun owners are all old, conservative, white men, typically Republicans. Fact, right? Is that a fact? All gun owners? Ooh, watch that absolute word, right? Ooh, all? No. And you know what? That's a real big thing that sometimes we have an issue with. Guns are not political. They shouldn't be political. We just talked about it before. It is our natural right, God-given, to protect ourselves. Does that mean liberals don't have a right to protect themselves? Democrats don't have a right to protect themselves? Only Republicans and conservatives do? Absolutely not. And you know, I don't want our passion for guns and self-protection and responsibility and safety to overpower all those other things. Do you know that the largest growing segment of gun ownership is still female? And not just female, minority female. Y'all look around this room right now. Anyone's minority females? Anyone? Okay, that's the largest growing group, people. Where are they? Why are they not here? Why? We need those people here to help perpetuate what we're trying to share, the messages we want. And it's not a Republican thing. It's not a conservative thing. In fact, me personally, I don't want my belief in the right to protect myself and my family to be something divisive. Once we put it in the political category, it automatically becomes divisive. Because people have picked sides and they're passionate about it, right? I'm a very passionate Republican conservative. Okay, fine. But I don't want that to divide me, separate me, or keep me away from the minority female who needs this in her life. Our gun passion and ownership should be what brings us together, what unites us. I don't care what your background or your belief or your sexual orientation or your 27 gender choices are. Believe me, I have learned a lot in these last few years because of the organizations I've been a part of. Guns are not political, and they're not old white Republican conservatives. They are American. They are American. And yes, I will admit to you, this was not part of my presentation, but I don't care. I'll admit to you, sometimes I get really uncomfortable because I work with people that do not believe what I believe, do not have the moral or foundational values that I cherish and live by. But I have learned that it can become an unlikely brotherhood or an unlikely sisterhood where we can come together because of our support of our Second Amendment and the right, the natural God-given right to protect ourselves. Think of that. And think about what a difference that makes too. My husband's two aunts are extraordinarily liberal. Like, we don't want to have Thanksgiving dinner with them. Okay, it is bad. It is bad. It's like World War III every single time they get together with sometimes my father-in-law, and I just bite my tongue, and there's so many things I want to say, but get this. They know what I do for a living. They know that Sean and I compete competitively. I mean, we shoot competitively. They know that we own maybe 1 or 2 firearms, 1 or 2. They know that we teach our children about guns and gun safety. If any of y'all have a chance to go to my Facebook page, Pacifiers and Peacemakers with Beth Alcazar, watch the video we did with our kids and tell me that education and training doesn't make a difference, okay? But these two very extraordinarily left-thinking, liberal women, both of them approached my husband and I, and guess what they wanted to know about? Firearms. Guess what they wanted to do? Go shooting, buy a gun. Oh no! Or, I don't know, celebration. They're gonna cross over to the Republican conservative side now, right? Not a chance. But again, lo and behold, of all of our differences and all the things that we can fight about, look what brought us together. The natural ability to protect ourselves. They might not believe God gave it to us, but they do believe it is their right to do so. Amazing, isn't it? And believe me, again, in the circles of folks that I deal with, the DC Project is another good example. For 3 years now, I've had an opportunity to go with the DC Project. This is a group, it's supposed to be a group of women, grassroots organization, one woman from every state going to Washington, D.C. all at the same time to talk to our representatives. And y'all, that is one of the most scary things I have ever encountered in my life. I hate going, but I do it. I absolutely abhor it, but I go. And I stand with these women who often don't believe anything I believe. And we support our right to keep and bear arms. It's amazing. Y'all, one of the ladies, I use the term loosely because it's a transgender. We probably have Zippo in common, except for the fact that she believes her right to protect ourselves with firearms. And again, unlikely sisterhood. I have nothing else to talk about in her world. Nothing. One of the ladies that I teach with often all across the country, she's very outstanding about her lifestyle, her wife, and you can kind of make some generalizations and assumptions just based on that. I don't agree with anything on that side of her life. I really don't. That's just who I am. But guess what? We successfully come together as sisters in arms to share to people how important this right is and why we must support it. And I see this happening all across our nation. I see groups coming up that are not conservative, that are not Republican, and yet they are fighting right alongside of us. Don't overlook that side. Those people that aren't exactly like us. Because we can find that common ground and make a huge difference. I'm watching it happen all the time. Okay, what's another myth? How about this one? Gun-free zones save lives. I can guarantee that is not one that we're perpetuating. This floors me that people sincerely believe that putting a sign up on the door that says no firearms will deter the violence, will deter the mindset of a deranged individual. A sign, a policy. Show me where that actually works, folks. I don't even have to say anything more on that because I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Dan touched on it earlier, gun violence. Okay, this one is just very special to me because for any English teachers, any other writers, anybody else know the lovely literary term personification? Anyone? Okay. It really bothers me because personification means to put human characteristics on what? Inanimate objects. Now, it works beautifully in literature, right? It's interesting, it's entertaining, it paints a beautiful picture, it makes for a lovely story. But there is no gun violence because that would be like saying there is a hat violence. There's potato violence. I know, right? That's stupid. There's pen violence. Can someone injure or kill someone with a pen? Pen violence. We need common sense pen control. Same thing with the pools. We need common sense. No. No. I challenge all of y'all in this room today, now that you've heard it several times, if you hear that term, stand up against it and say there is no gun violence. Gun violence takes away the responsibility from the person who did the bad stuff and is putting it on an inanimate object, and I will not stand for that. Y'all, I've had liberal media call me, interview me, and I had literally a 3-hour conversation with this woman from The Trace. Anyone heard of that? Very liberal, anti-gun. 3-hour conversation with her, and she brought up gun violence, and we had a discussion, and y'all, she said, I have never once heard someone describe it that way. That is life-changing. She said it. Liberal media from The Trace told me. I had never thought of it that way. There are some logical left thinkers out there. There are. And I challenged her on that level, and she, now, every time she calls me about something else, she's like, okay, what if I call it this? You know, she's like conferring with me. I'm like, you can call it terrorist violence, criminal violence, human violence, as long as you're not taking away that responsibility and putting it on something that didn't do it. Here's another myth that goes hand in hand with that. Guns are designed to kill people. Okay, how many of you, by raising your hand, have a gun that fits that definition then? Your gun killed people. Oh, what? They're all malfunctioning. Take them all back. Take them all back. You walk into that gun store and say, this gun has not killed anybody, and the media tells me it was designed to kill, so I need a new one, or 2 or 3. It's a lemon. You got a lemon gun. Guns are not designed or created to kill people. That implies intent. What did we just talk about? Do guns have the intent to kill or hurt? No. Who has that? Me, person. Okay? So guns are not designed to kill. You know what they're designed to do? launch a projectile. How many of you have firearms that launch projectiles? Great, now you're okay, we're on the right track then. Your guns are working properly. Mindset, words, very important. You gotta help me change the conversations that are out there, people. Because if we let that continue and we feed into that or we repeat it, who's gonna change the conversation? It's up to us. Okay, we have to change those conversations. Just a couple more myths, because I'm taking forever and we're almost out of time. How about this one? If you're deadly on the gun range, you'll be deadly in real life. Woo! Y'all, I was 5 yards away from a static paper target, and I shot a .22 with a grouping like this. Done. I can now defend myself in a life or death threatening scenario, right? Okay. So here's where the big challenge comes. If we are going to be responsible gun owners, we are truly going to stand for our Second Amendment. We need to be educated, informed, active. And by active, I don't mean just join the BamaCarry group. Go train. Do something. Be ready. Make yourself harder to kill. Deselect yourself from the process that criminals go through to pick a victim. Deselect yourself by being aware. Situational awareness. Planning ahead. Remembering that that gun on your hip is a last resort. Last resort. Do y'all want to shoot somebody? Do y'all want to, ask yourself, do I want to go to jail? Do I want to take someone's life, or do I want to lose my own? If the answer to any of those questions are yes, then you can probably use your gun. That makes sense? If the answer to any of those are no, well, why aren't you finding the nearest escape route? I'm just saying, think about it. And when I say train, y'all, there are so many options. By show of hands. You ready for this? By show of hands. I'm putting you on the spot intentionally. How many of you dry fire? Raise your hand, dry fire. Okay. Guess how much time and effort that takes? Do you have to go anywhere to dry fire? No. Do you have to find a safe direction? Yes. Do you have to get rid of all the ammo and make sure it's nowhere near? Yes. But that's about it. Dude, you can go around and take out every light switch in your house right now. And that is practice. You think I'm kidding? I've taken out every light switch in my house. Every one of them. I have, multiple times. Okay? How many of you, yes, show of hands, go to the range and you shoot? Keep your hands up if you shoot more than once a month. More than twice a month. Uh-oh. More than 3 times a month. Y'all look around the room. What just happened to the percentage on that? I realize it's hard to get to the range. Believe me, you can put your hands down. I have 5 children at home. Oops, I have a husband, a dog, and 3 kids. Y'all, it can be done. I know this is what I do for a living, but it can be done. There are things you can do. You can read some of the awesome books out there too. Head knowledge, this is also good. Okay? You can do shooting competitions. Anyone do competition shooting? Okay, now granted there are some training scars you'd have to worry about. But if you can't tell the difference between shooting a competition and shooting defensive pistol, maybe you shouldn't do either. I'm just saying, okay? I think you can figure it out though, but I challenge you. I'm gonna tell you, even though it's my job, even though I live this all the time, I still get challenged. I'm going next week to take classes. I'm taking another instructor course and this month, next month. But I'm gonna tell you, one thing that made a huge difference, ever been to a shoot house? Holy moly. Anyone read my article in the January edition of Concealed Carry magazine about this? I'm just gonna do it real quick because I'm over time, but y'all, listen to this. I was at Gunsight Academy. Y'all heard about that? Colonel Cooper's baby, right? He was kind of a cool guy, father of modern pistol craft and all. I had a rare and wonderful opportunity to train there. I'd never shot in a shoot house before, not an official one like this. with targets that looked like real people. Eek! Okay, now some of these real people were holding sunglasses, or beer bottles, or books. And some of these real people were holding guns or knives or other weapons. So imagine all this stress. You have to go through the shoot house and in moments differentiate and figure out, is this a bad guy? Or is this just a bystander, just an innocent? Okay, whew, that's stressful enough as it is, right? Well, we went through that, but then on the very last day, it all became very real. The very last day, I was given the directive, Beth, you've just gotten home. Your loved one is in the house, but there's also trouble. And I'm like, okay, my heart's already racing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was really there. I was there. I'm like, I'm gonna take this seriously. I take my MP off my hip. I do all the things that I'm supposed to do. You know, I have to slice the pie. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Get out of the fatal funnel. All those kind of woo terms, right? Ooh, big, massive, important stuff, right? I'm going through that house. I'm clearing rooms. Of course, I don't highly recommend clearing rooms, but my loved one was in there, so I didn't have an option, right? If he had said, just go, there's bad guys, I would have been like, bye, I'm done. I would have called 911 and left, and my test would have been over, right? But what changed it all was loved ones in the house, right? So I'm going through room to room. I even had the presence of mind to look out the window, and lo and behold, there was a bad guy with a gun. I had to shoot him. I actually did a tactical reload. Kept going through the room, and I'm like, okay, can't even breathe. This is an overload of senses. I'm almost done though. I think I'm doing okay. I get to the last corner of the last room, and I'm peeking around doing what I'm supposed to do with slicing the pie. And I have my firearm ready to go, and I look, and I see another human target. And what are we trained to do? We look at the hands, right? Does this human bad guy, or is this human innocent? I look at his hands, and y'all, I never thought I would have any kind of reaction or any kind of experience like this before. I looked at that bad guy, and it's clear as day in my head right now as I speak. And I looked at his hands, and he had a gun to a little boy's head. And y'all, in that moment, that little boy looked just like my 7-year-old son. Just like him. Blonde, blue-eyed, same age, same height, scared to death. Y'all, this is a paper target. And it had that kind of reaction. I have never felt so focused, scared, frustrated, determined in all my life, but I pushed that firearm out, and I shot that bad guy in both eyes and the nose. And as soon as my RSO said, okay, we're done, holster your weapon, I lost it. I bawled. I could not stop crying, that ugly, awful, that kind of crying. And the guy's like freaking out. Are you okay, Beth? You did a great job. What's going on? I'm like, that's my son. The target looks just like my baby. And for a moment, he stopped too, never thinking it would have such an impact on someone. But y'all, all that did was prove why I do what I do. And why you need to do what you do. And why all of us stand unwavering, with no exception, no chipping away and no infringement on our natural God-given right to protect ourselves and the ones we love. Thank you for your attention today.